Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedikt and I'm feeling happy and proud.
I'm Benedicte. Today is May 24th. This is episode number 140, and I am feeling accomplished. With us today is the wonderful Pierre, co-founder of web scraping API ScrapingBee. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're
Thanks
so
for
happy
agreeing
you're here.
to come on.
So we actually know Pierre a little bit, both of us. So this is going to be a fun one. I spent some days with him in Athens, and I guess you know him even better, Benedikt.
Well, I never met him in person, so but we've been on the same mastermind for the last 2 years. It's been 2 years by now, right?
Yeah, exactly 2 years. But if we say that 1 hour of Zoom equals 30 minutes live, we could say maybe we met a few hours now.
Yeah.
We have to shift our, I don't know, it's COVID time. So yeah, let's say we know each other.
In all, we maybe talk to each other for like 20 hours total, something like
Exactly.
that.
Okay, let's put it that way.
Well, so I win then. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah, it was.
But so you said you were excited. Is it just because of this awesome podcast recording, or is there more to the more reasons to be excited this week?
No, actually, I think it was really because of the podcast, which is probably the best news of my week regarding ScrapingBee. So.
Oh, that sounds pretty grim.
Yeah. It's not the best of time, but it's neither the worst of time for the company. But yeah, I was debugging some infra scaling issue all day long, and so it's my little breath of fresh air.
Nice.
Got it.
I've started to realize that I maybe don't want this SaaS business after all, because Benedikt talks about scaling issues and infrastructure almost at least once a month. And it seems
true
to never go away.
That's what we sell, right? Like, we have a SaaS, so our customer don't have to take care of all of this. Like, if it was that easy, we probably wouldn't have a business in the first place anyway. So that's how I how I think about it.
That's true.
Yeah. Do you also get those comments when you're like dealing with scaling issues that people are like, "Hey, that's nice. At least you've got scaling issues. You should be proud of yourself."
Yeah, exactly. Every time. And so, I mean, there's like two kinds of scaling issue. There's the nice ones, such as, okay, my billing is exploding. What should I do to reduce the billing? And you then negotiate like a new contract, whatever, with providers. Or, you're going to get an issue in 3 to 5 months because some database table is going to be full. Those are the nice ones. And then there is oh my God, everything broke up at 3 a.m. You wake up at 8, you see the support, like 25 tickets up, and it's broken, what's happening? And then angry interrogation mark everywhere and passive aggressiveness everywhere. And you're stressed and you're alone and you're fighting and you're answering on support. So your debugging is even slower. So yeah, those are definitely not the fun ones.
That's true.
Yeah, I know you had your fair share of scaling issue twos and big trouble. So yeah.
But I feel like that's a good segue into explaining what problem ScrapingBee solves before we go any further into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, sure. So ScrapingBee is a web scraping API. So by API, it's like a tool for developers to automatically get a lot of pages and information online. So usually, if you want to web scrape, there's a few things you need to manage yourself, such as finding a good proxy provider or having to deal with headless browsers, like real Chrome instances you have to run and manage to render a full website. And so we do that so you don't have to. And we have lots of users who have big web scraping needs and the scaling issues.
Okay. Now you can go back to commiserating about scaling issues.
Cool.
No, but as you said, it's so that I don't have to find all those things and manage those things. But when I tested out scraping, I also found that like it just gives me a really nice API to work with, and instead of having to kind of come up with all of that myself, it was kind of really easy to parse
exactly.
a page.
So the initial value proposition was to basically be like an infrastructure provider, maybe like we provide proxies and transparently provide proxies and a headless browser. And then those last 2 years, we've built lots of utilities feature that makes web scraping like easier, funnier, and more accessible. So yeah, such as like parsing HTML is not very hard, but yeah, it can easily take a few hours to put in place if you've never done it. Well, instead you can just spend maybe 15 minutes reading our documentation, and we will parse the HTML on our end and returns you nice JSON object. So that's the kind of thing we developed. Yeah.
And I also see that you have screenshot. You can make screenshots with ScrapingBee as well now.
Yeah, exactly. Now you can make screenshots. You can also code some kind of JavaScript scenario. Like, let's say you want to scrape a website and the information you want is behind a pop-up or a drop-down, and it won't be loaded inside the DOM before you click on some buttons. Well, you can easily do this with ScrapingBee. We also have, what else do we have? PDF rendering is coming soon. And a no-code integration. Yeah, we also develop an integration with Integromat. Now it's called make.com to make web scraping even easier.
Cool. So how long have you been at it with ScrapingBee?
I think we're going to celebrate. I think maybe today would be the third anniversary of ScrapingBee. Like, depending on what you consider being the first day, the first commit was, around the end of May. So definitely 3 years.
Did you say like today, as in like specifically today?
Maybe it's tomorrow. Like it's not quite easy on GitHub to find the first commit. Like, and I don't remember the Git command to find it. But yeah, it's end of May. We did the first commit on the repo.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because somebody else has their anniversary
mentioned
today.
It earlier. Yeah. Today's like the 4th birthday of Userlist Inc. Like we incorporated exactly 4 years today ago today. So
yeah, well,
that would have been a coincidence if like you incorporated on the same day.
Yeah, no, because we've made a first product that was in the same incorporated entities before ScrapingBee. The incorporated entity is actually 4.5 years old. So,
yeah.
So, what did you do before starting ScrapingBee?
So before ScrapingBee, we did PricingBot, which was a price monitoring tool for e-commerce. So the idea was, ideally, you have a Shopify store, you link it to PricingBot, we go and find some competitors' product on the web, we add it to your dashboard, and you get alert as soon as some competitors try to undercut you or do some sales, and then you can auto-reprice, your whole catalog to always be the cheapest. Or maybe not the cheapest, but to react to those price changes. But it failed for various reasons. Probably the first one was that it was an awful product. but also that it was hard to pull off. Like, it's quite hard to automatically match a product with all the competitors. Like, especially we had lots of edge cases. Like, we had a mattress reseller, and then his catalog was all, okay, mattress, 10 number reference, and then some dimension. And when you went to the competitors, well, all the dimension, all the prices were on a PDF, so extracting those were impossible to automate. Like, we could have automated those, but it was very hard to make a generic solution that could apply to all our customers. So basically, what we've built was not a good SaaS, but not a great service either. So yeah, it didn't have a lot of future. So, how some people say there are some products you can't bootstrap because it's just too complex to do without having a big team. I think PricingBot was maybe one of those products.
Interesting. So it's like a lot like a product that would maybe just like warrant not automating it altogether, or like just like building some tool set to make it to have like cheap contractors researching the prices and updating them once per day or something like that.
Definitely, but that's one thing. But to be honest, like at first we did it manually. Like for the record, with Kevin, we spent 5 full days matching adult doll for an adult shop in Sweden. It was weird days. Like, I remember my mother-in-law entered in the office where I was working. She was, oh, sorry, yeah, okay, I'll let you work, no problem, no worries. Like, I was just matching like Tristiana. I don't know, like, yeah, whatever. So we did everything manually. It was a pain. And even when we did that, people wouldn't subscribe. Like, we tried to automate something that people wouldn't have paid for anyway. So, yeah. Like, as I said, everything was wrong with the business. Like, the ideas, the execution, the targets, everything. The logo was nice.
Right.
The logo was good. Okay.
That's the important part. Like the first thing you get is the domain, and the second thing you get is the logo, right?
Exactly. No, credits where credits due. Like, Kevin did like his first arms in SEO. Like, he played with it for the first time, I believe, and he had some great results, which allowed us to sell it to a competitor, even though we were making less than $500 MRR afterwards.
So you sold the company, or the blog, or the company?
We sold the company because, not the company, the products, the full product. So the blog plus the code, which was worth less, but we had some, maybe 3,000-4,000 trial. So those would be basically good mailing list for a competitor. And the company that bought us, I talked with its founder, I think 1 year ago, and he told me that it wasn't the best M&A ever, and they basically broke even with when they bought us. So, yeah, that's what we sold.
So you did well.
No. Like, we sold it for low 5 figures. So
no, but like, you did well in this kind of in the deal. Like, he broke even, which means you kind of got as much as you could have gotten for the company, for the product.
Yeah.
So when did you switch, or what made you switch to ScrapingBee, which also has a really nice logo, or at least now has a really nice logo?
Thank you. So we switched when we realized that PricingBot would get nowhere, and we were also like, we no longer wanted to work on it, and we only have 3 months of runway, so we had to find an idea quickly. When we built PricingBot, we were using a web scraping API, which was good, but not that good. And we thought, okay, we can do at least as good, and we can probably do better if we have enough time. So that's how we ended up building ScrapingBee. Like, we didn't thought too much about it. What really made the switch that we noticed that with PricingBot, our target were e-commerce owners, and we knew none of them. We didn't know the industry. We didn't know actual e-commerce owners. Whereas when we've considered building ScrapingBee, we realized, okay, this time we're going to build for people like us, for developers. We know web scraping quite well. We know why people do web scraping, where they do web scraping. We know who to talk to at some companies who do web scraping. So that sounded like a much better idea than our previous company.
So did you run out
you
of the
feel
3 months runway?
So actually, because we managed to sell PricingBot, we extended the runway a bit, but we built the initial MVP, whatever, in like 3 weeks. And then 1 month after, we went live. Like, we were in beta phase for a month, I think. And then we went live in early July.
Do you feel like being embedded in that community made it a lot easier in the early days of getting it up and running and getting the first customers?
Yeah, definitely. So being in some web scraping communities really helped us get some feedback and user, but we probably, I think we could have made it without being in those communities. But what really helped the most was to know developers, to know where they hang out on the internet, the kind of content they like to read, the kind of problem they have, the kind of language they talk. That is what helped the most.
So essentially, you build a product for developers, and it's successful, even though everyone always says like, "Don't sell stuff to developers."
Yeah, but we didn't sell it to developers. Our target were developers who were solving problems at companies. Like, we didn't sell it to developers to to improve their swag or to make their computer more pretty, or like, because when you consider developers, you can consider them as almost consumer, or as businesses, and we choose the latter approach.
Makes sense, yeah.
So how's it been since then?
Since then, things have been cool. We've been growing nicely for the last 3 years, and we're now a small team of 4. So there's Kevin, my co-founder, doing all the marketing, and much more. There's Etienne, the main API developer. There is also Nizar, who is doing all the support, and there is me. I used to do a lot of support. I also do development, and I like product user research, and sometimes a bit of content. So yeah, we don't intend to hire a lot more this year, and that's where we're at right now.
Can you share any numbers, or how is that?
Yeah. So we reached the 1 million ARR mark last November. We hope to reach 2 million ARR this year, and we have more than 500 customers. So we have the chance to have a good ARPU, like average revenue per user, which means like we don't need to have 3,000 customers, for example, to reach 1 million ARR, which would make the whole keep the whole like start small, stay small thing much harder. So
yeah,
we have this chance, and yeah, that's like any other number you would like to know.
I know the listeners love numbers, so
Okay.
we gotta ask. But what was I thinking about? Yes, I was gonna ask when you were talking about the team, if you're all are you all located in, because I know you're in France, are you all French and fully remote, or
We're all fully remote. We're three of us are French because actually, like Kevin and Etienne, I've known them since high school, so that's where I met them initially. Nizar is in Morocco, is Moroccan, and for the freelancer we work with, we have one or two in England doing some content, one in the US, I think, and then a little bit of everywhere.
were you best friends in high school and have been ever since, or?
Yeah, we were quite close. Yeah, absolutely. So actually, like Kevin is the reason. Being friend with Kevin is the reason why that made me ended up doing computer science study. And Etienne, yeah, same. I've also spent hours and hours playing with him on World of Warcraft or Super Smash Bros. And also, yeah, lots of fun memories with them. And it's been good ever since.
that's
Cool.
nice.
That is really cool. It is kind of, the narrative a little bit in pop culture, but when I've talked to people online, it's really not that common. So it's fun that you actually, were friends in high school and started computer
Yeah.
science and played, games together, and then they start funding the company together. It's cool that, the the narrative actually is true for some people. Now I
Yeah,
remember what I was trying to follow up on. Sorry, keep on talking about the friends.
No, like at first I was a bit afraid to do that move because you're putting a lot on the line. Mainly with Etienne, because with Kevin from day one we knew, okay, let's build the company together. So that was a bet we were like ready to make. But for Etienne, like it would be okay. Maybe the balance can be a bit tricky. Like you're basically his boss, but it's also one of your best friends. Like how do you handle that? So what we ended up doing was like naturally at first, Etienne left his job, and we needed some help for a feature. And I asked Etienne, like, okay, do you want to come work with us for like 3 to 6 months? We have this a big feature we'd like to develop, but we can't hire full-time person for now. Like, what do you think? And he said, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it. And then we ended up working together for 6 months. And it was very fun. And it was also very cool. And, like, when you make your first hire, there's a big trust component. Like, you're going for the first time to give access to a lot of things to basically a stranger who you do not know, and to someone who you've never met in person. So it's a bit risky. So with Etienne, we had this whole thing completely written off. And it ended up working very well for 6 months. So after 6 months, I asked him, okay, if you enjoyed this, we have lots of developing needs. If you want to come aboard, it would be a pleasure. But if you don't want to, like, no offense, no issue at all. And see you Saturday anyway. So that was basically the conversation. So, yeah. And he said yes, and it's been working well ever since.
Does he have any stakes in the company outside being an employee?
No.
Sorry, I always forget employee.
Yeah, so no, it doesn't. But what we do is a kind of a revenue share agreement.
That's smart.
Yeah, I mean, it seems fair the most fair solution for the both of us. Like, it works. We're profitable. We're going to share revenue. And since we've built this company for the last 4 years, we've taken most of the risk with Kevin. We also don't know, like, if we've ever managed to sell it to someone at some point. So we choose to keep the share, but to share the revenue. And that's something he also liked, to have real cash at the end of the year instead of share.
Some future nothing. No, in your case, it's going to be worth a lot, I'm sure. I saw Nathan Barry of ConvertKit did a thread on that, I think yesterday, where they do like a 4-way approach, where they do that, like revenue share, and then they do salary, but then they also do a little bit of a like future stake in the company. And I can't remember what the fourth one was, but because he said, like, if you want to be an employee, I guess is the correct word. Yes. There's a reason you haven't started something yourself for like a future payout. Like, you don't want to take that kind of risk, or you're not that kind of person. So it is nicer to have kind of shorter term compensation.
I totally agree.
So back to the numbers, because now I remembered what I was going to ask. Have you taken any funding, or are you kind of fully bootstrapped?
Well, I can't say no here. So I'll admit it. Yeah, we joined Tiny Seed 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, we were 2020 batch. I'm actually on the same batch as Benedikt. And we took a small check, like around, their terms are public, but it's like around $100K for between, I think, 10 and 15% of the company. And it was really cool, and it was a good timing, because the month we received the money was actually the month the whole lockdown began. And the first month we observed a decrease in revenue. So, it really made the whole situation way less stressful than it would have been without the whole money. And we also, I'm sure you talked about Tiny Seed on this podcast before, but the whole tutor thing, community thing, mastermind and all was very, very valuable.
Yeah, I remember, like, when you just said, like, it was the time when the lockdown started. And I remember exactly this. Like, I think that it was the week we got the money. It was also the week where basically the whole world imploded.
Yeah.
And part of me was expecting that they will just bail out, but they didn't, luckily.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
And it was like, by the end of that week, it was like a huge sense of relief, because then you had the money and you knew you'd be safe for at least a year or even longer.
Yeah.
And the world can go to shit. You'll be fine for the next year, which was like a huge relief. Yeah, I remember that as well.
Exactly same. We were like with Kevin, well, we don't know those people. They're in the US. Maybe they're going to bail out. Let's hope they are as strong as they say they are. And they were. And they, it ended up working and made us go through this whole thing. I wouldn't say smoothly, but like
less stress, maybe.
Yeah, less stress. A lot less stress. Because you had the bootstrapping stress that's always here. Like, okay, what happens if it fails? I don't want to go back, find a work. What happens if I run out of money? What happens if that big customer churn? What happens if those $2K we've spent on marketing ended up being useless? And that was a big relief.
Totally. So one more thing I wanted to ask you. You're super popular on Twitter, at least in the SaaS crowd, it looks like. And you're kind of thought leadering a lot there, like posting insightful stuff. Do you
And
feel like
funny
this
stuff.
helped you? And funny stuff as well.
Thank you.
Do you feel like this helped you getting ScrapingBee off the ground, or is your Twitter audience a result of ScrapingBee's success, or I don't know?
No, that's definitely like, it's definitely the other way around. Like, that's funny. Like 2 months ago, I digged into Google Analytics, and we only got one tracked customer out of Twitter, and I'm not even sure it's from my account. Like, it can totally be from Tiny Seed or ScrapingBee or someone else account. So that's how profitable this acquisition channel is for us. But we've had some nice second order effect. So I'm just going to talk about the company here and then switch to the personal benefit. But for the company, we've had a couple of nice backlink. For example, like last year, I talked about Microsoft Clarity, how cool it was. And then the PM of Microsoft Clarity reached out and said, hey, we want to write a case study. Like, can you help us do that for ScrapingBee and Microsoft Clarity? And by the way, Microsoft Clarity is like a free Hotjar alternative and very cool. But yeah, it's free, so it's not really free. You're the product, but it's cool nonetheless. And we ended up having a backlink from a Microsoft.com blog, which was, awesome.
That's a nice backlink.
Yeah, exactly. We ended up being on some cool podcast or being featured, not in the big publication, but in nice publication, I'd say. So yeah, some second order effect can be nice, but mainly I did it for me and to meet other people. I live in the countryside in France. It's hard for me to randomly talk to people who like SaaS and bootstrapping where I live. So it's always cool to get into these small communities and find other people who like this. And so I've met lots of cool people. The DM on Twitter are also cool. I've also had lots of cool suggestions, like when I tweet about a problem I have or some tool I'm looking for. Always have some genuine and cool suggestion. And thirdly, I've also had, I think, 3 people recommended by other people, which we ended up working with. So definitely, yeah, something cool, but not the thing that made ScrapingBee grow a lot.
But if everything fails, you can sell a book or a course to all us other developers as consumers.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do this because I'm not a book writing person. So, and if I ever write a book, I think it's going to be for me. But yeah, maybe if I ever build something else, I could get to a few hundred beta user faster than if I hadn't have the Twitter account. But I don't know. Like I've never launched something else. I've never launched something since ScrapingBee or something big. So we'll see.
So just for the listeners who don't know, it's 17,000, I guess, followers is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think, which is like big, but definitely not as big as the real big ones out there, like Peter Levels and also.
There's always someone with more followers out there, right?
Yeah, there is always a bigger fish. Yeah.
But there also seems to be not always good to be the bigger one. Like some people, it gets to be too many and it's not fun anymore.
Exactly. And that's why I don't think I tweet. I probably tweet once a day, I think. No more than that. Except when I have this amazing meme ID and I just can't not share it. And I don't I'm not optimizing for, getting 100,000 of user. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's just not something I'm looking forward to. Like, I like it the way it is right now.
So if it didn't work as an acquisition channel, what does work for ScrapingBee?
So definitely mainly SEO, which is something Kevin should take 100% credit for. We tried a bit of everything in the early days, but SEO was the one of the few we could afford, to be honest, at first, and also the most efficient in terms of. So you spend 10 hours writing content, and then you get exposure by sharing it. You get some leads, you get some backlinks, you get some credibility. And so, yeah, that is what works the best for us. And we've seen other people notice it, because it's funny, because now I've counted at least 10 web scraping companies writing exactly the same content article as us. And that's I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a like what you do in those kinds of situations with content. It's very visible, so it's so easy for other people to copy.
No. Of course, and there's all those SEO analytics tool that will tell you, well, this article on ScrapingBee.com brings 20K custom user per visitors per month, and all those SEO agency, at some point you're getting big enough that you're going to get tracked by all those tools, and you're going to get listed as soon as you type web scraping company somewhere. And so all your content ID are going to get not stolen, but because you can't really steal it, but
borrowed.
Yeah, let's say borrowed.
Well, I guess you can also steal it.
Yeah, of course. No. To be honest, we did the same too. Like, yeah, we went to all those big web scraping websites, and so, okay, what's bringing the most traffic? What's working? What's not working? And everyone does it. That's how it works. What we never did, and what not a lot of people do, is actually stealing the content. Like, we've had one competitor do it, but that's all, I think. That's the only one I know of.
You had a web scraping competitor web scrape your blog post?
Yeah, I had one people telling me this. Well, maybe use web ScrapingBee to do it, so it's not that bad. Well, yeah, sure. Completely relevant. And so, yeah, I don't know what we were talking about, but yeah, SEO was
acquisition channel.
And what could I say more about SEO? Yeah, one interesting thing, like, when I told you about our competitor, which inspired us when we built PricingBot, what we noticed was that his SEO was very bad. Like, I mean, his SEO was good, but his content was horrible. And so we saw a big opportunity here. We also saw a big opportunity in writing actually good and interesting web scraping tutorials for developers, not the one who try to stuff the product on your mouse, like every 2 paragraphs. You should take a trial. Here's a coupon. Here's a video. Here, a link to our YouTube channel. Like, we don't do any of this. Maybe we should, but currently we don't. And that's the kind of edge we try to exploit, like writing very good content in an undercovered SEO niche at that time.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. So I guess the trick is figuring out what that content is for everyone else's business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your articles. I mean, they were really good. And as you said, they weren't selling it too hard. It was more like, okay, you're done with this tutorial. If you experience problems X, Y, and Z, we can solve those for you. But if you're just going to be scraping this one time for something and you make it work, like there's no need kind of soft sell. And I think in the long run, people will respect that a lot more.
Probably. I mean, that's the bet we made. We saw our articles getting organically posted on a Stack Overflow question, in the answer section of some question. And it was very cool because it meant, like developers are reading our content and realize it solves a problem and think it's good enough to share it on some not very, how do you say, Stack Overflow is not the nicest place on earth for developers, and yet people felt comfortable enough to share ScrapingBee articles. So yeah, that was cool.
That's probably the biggest compliment you can get from a developer about your content.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that should be one of the milestones. When Brian was on, we talked about having this like startup poster or a thing where you could like get stickers for different milestones in your SaaS journey. And I think organically like being posted to Stack Overflow should be pretty high up there as like a milestone to go
definitely. For. I would add like not getting destroyed by Hacker News. I haven't got that one yet.
Is that even possible? Like you said,
I don't know. That's why it's so valuable. Like this one, it's gold.
It's ultra rare. It's like top 0.000%.
Shiny milestone. There's getting some on Reddit. Like you can get some kind of, I don't know, like imaginary token or gift to a post you really like. Like you can gold a post you like, and we've got that one too, and it was nice. I mean, it's pure vanity. Like it's completely useless in the big picture, but it's nice. It means you spend time writing content and people like it. So,
but I think when you do have developers as customers, or at least the ones that will pitch it up the chain to whoever is going to pay for it, that to have their respect is, I think, in the long run, as we talked about, will be valuable. And so those kinds of vanity metrics shows that they respect your content and you as a company, and that actually means something, even though it's also, a fun vanity. In the long run, it actually means something.
Yeah, definitely. And developers are, I think, people who really hate marketing, except when it is getting free swag from Stripe or GitHub. Usually they hate marketing. And so having them seeing you as not as this big evil big corporation doing all kind of tracking or adding you on LinkedIn and on sometime WhatsApp, but just publishing the best content possible can make a difference. Yeah, I agree.
I have talked to somebody who is very much like, well, developers say they hate marketing, but they are real, like we are, because we hate, like we pretend to hate it so much. And we think we can spot it. It turns out that a lot of developers are really bad at spotting good marketing.
Exactly.
They're like, I don't like being marketed till, but they are very susceptible to good marketing because they don't think they're going to fall for it. So therefore they fall. If fall is the correct word, but it's weirdly.
And it feels like, maybe I'm wrong, but that developers are like, no, you can't have me like you have all those other people. All your classic marketing trick, it won't work on me. So you need to be better than this. There's like, I'm immune to marketing because I'm a developer. And there is this kind of mindset somewhat that you can clearly see on Hacker News. Like you post something and then you're always going to be a smart people saying, I'm pretty sure it's for SEO. Well, yes, genius, but it doesn't mean it's wrong, So that's yeah. But I love developers anyway. Like I think there are.
I mean,
fun
we're all
people to work
developers,
with.
so
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, we're all developers, but of course, well, developers is a very diverse group of people. But like lots of developers, I think, would like to have a business somehow or a small profitable side project somehow at some point. So they tend to enjoy when you talk about your business, how you built it, when you are quite transparent on how you operate it. And also they are one of the best people to get feedback from. Like it's really awesome.
okay. So over to that, like transparency and stuff that we do enjoy hearing about. How is a typical week for you in ScrapingBee?
It's usually Monday to Friday. No. And yeah, sorry, that was a terrible joke.
Well, it's a valuable answer. It could be like Monday to Sunday, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's just not assume. And a typical week, like honestly, it's hard to describe. It's like we just work, we talk on Slack, we talk about what we should build, we talk about the milestone. Sometime Etienne will release a nice feature, we'll share it on Slack and be, yeah, so cool, yeah, okay, cool, okay, let's move to something else. With Kevin, we talk once every 2 weeks, I think. We have this long conversation about, okay, what should we do next, how to solve the current issues, where to find growth and all. The weekend I do all the support, so it's kind of annoying, but it's getting less and less annoying because Nizar is doing awesome work. And I don't have lots of team process or communication process to share here. It's really kind of a flow. I think we can afford it because we're a very small team and we have a quite simple product in the end. Like there's not tons of feature, dashboard, screen to work on, so it's quite easy to stay focused on a few things.
On a more personal level, do you find it easy to get up every day and like work on ScrapingBee?
It depends. Like, no, but to be honest, like I've had some bad weeks, where you're like, no, I don't want to go. All those customers complaining on support, and it's going to be scaling issue, and we're going to get churn, and we're getting destroyed by Google new core update, and our infra is not working, and so you're like, yeah, no, I don't want to. But then you remember that if you don't, no one else will. And then you remember that you edited it even more when you were working for someone else. So yeah, you get up, and when you can get up, you take a day off, and that's perfectly okay to do so. You go walk outside, do something else, read some book, watch some TV, cook some cake, whatever. Like, not all our life is in ScrapingBee anyway. We're not particularly passionate about web scraping, so it's important to not make that business make you crazy or sad or both.
That's a good mantra to live by.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done because at the end of the day, it's a small team. There's always issue, and you have to be accountable to your customer, to your employee now, to your investor, to yourself too, because I'd be terrified if I had to go and apply for a job. So but I mean, it's all pros and cons for all jobs. So
Got it. Cool. Do you have more questions, Benedicte?
No,
Or should we
I
wrap
don't
it? We are
think so.
close to an hour.
We could wrap it. Do you have anything you would like to say that we haven't asked you? Is there something we should have asked you?
No, I mean, I wouldn't dare to say that you should have asked something. No, I think it was quite cool. It was the opportunity to talk about things I never talked about, which was refreshing. And yeah, thank you. I had some good time.
So where can people go to find out more about you?
Well, they could go to Twitter, Pierre de Wulf, or on ScrapingBee.com if they want to learn about web scraping. Even better, ScrapingBee.com/blog. And that'd be it.
That's where it's happening. And check the description for a link to the Twitter for those who are not that good at spelling French surnames.
Yeah, and a backlink to the blog too.
Yes. We'll add that. Absolutely.
It's already in the show notes.
Amazing.
SEO checklist done. Awesome. Thanks a lot for joining us. This was a fun conversation.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you around the interwebs.
Yeah.
See you around the interwebs.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.